Hello, everyone. We are here with Sandy Dockendorff. Sandy is running for Iowa House District 88. Hello.
Hello.
So I will just get right into the questions for you.
Sounds good.
First question is, why are you running for Iowa House District 88?
In the beginning, I was looking for somebody to run for this race. I had been involved with the Democratic Party for many years, and party leadership had asked me if I knew somebody good in the district since I lived there. And I looked to people in various areas of the district, and I couldn't find anybody who was willing to run. And eventually they asked me, why don't I run? And I said, well, I'm kind of busy. I'm on the school board. I serve on the community health centers of Southeast Iowa's Quality Improvement Committee. I serve on the government relations committee for the local chamber. I'm very involved with legislative stuff for the Iowa Association of School Boards, and I said, I'm just really busy. And they said, well, you can have a bigger impact. You can bring those issues, your healthcare issues, your education issues, your job concerns, to the people of Iowa and serve them better in this position. And essentially the decision was made over the course of like 3 days. And so we went out, we got the signatures, and we turned them in like, I think the day before the deadline. So it was a very quick decision, but we did take the time to think it through and decided that this would be a good way for me to make an impact for people in Iowa.
The Iowa House handles a wide variety of topics for the citizens of the state of Iowa. What experience do you have that you feel qualifies you for this office?
A lot, actually. When I first graduated from college with a psych degree, I didn't have any idea what I was going to do. I wanted to go into a helping profession. My mother, single mother, raised 3 kids. All 3 of us went to college. She suggested that I take the PACE exam for the federal government. And so I took the PACE exam and I got a job as a budget analyst for the U.S. Navy. And I spent 5 years learning about priorities and how to read a budget and how to create a budget. So I bring that experience. But it wasn't really what I wanted to do with my life. And I didn't really it was the Reagan years, and I wasn't really feeling that the direction of the country was going well. And so I stepped back, I resigned my position with the federal government, and I walked out and joined the Democratic Party as a volunteer. And then I did a couple of things. I ran my own business, providing services to other business people. I had computer experience, and so I took that and used it for other businesses. And that's where I met my husband. And I kept saying, I want to go back to school. So I got my nursing degree. So I have the healthcare. And then, education has been the real love of my life in terms of making an impact. I believe it's a great equalizer, and it's the greatest economic development tool that we have in the state.
COVID-19 has driven many decisions made at all levels of government and in households in Iowa. After the health and safety of Iowans, what are your biggest concerns the state will face as we continue to go through this pandemic?
I think that the COVID-19 has highlighted and made more severe every issue that we had coming into it. Issues of inequality, issues of mental health concerns, issues of public safety. Every one of those has been made more difficult in the state of Iowa and across the country with COVID-19. I think that the budget responses that the state has to this pandemic have to be based on the very basic issues that were highlighted by its existence. So the issues with income inequity, you can't say we're just going to stop paying people the Medicaid bills. People keep saying that the Medicaid keeps costs rising 5% and it's unsustainable, but they never talk about solving the problem of having working Americans who are still eligible for government transfers. And so my question is, why aren't we looking at what is the underlying problem that we have people who are working full time and still eligible for Medicaid? I think that those types of issues we have to pay specific attention to in solving all of the economic issues coming out of COVID-19.
In your opinion, what is the #1 issue facing Iowans at this time, and how would you address this issue?
I think that falls directly out of that last question. I think we need to be asking ourselves, I think the #1 problem that we have is that not everybody is able to equally participate in our economy, and we have to figure out why. When we have so many people who are working multiple jobs, when we have so many people who cannot afford to live in the communities in which they work, when we have people who are on the front line in a COVID-19 pandemic who are not receiving wages that are sustainable for their lives, to be able to provide a roof over their head or medications for their sick kids. I mean, I think we have to look at those basic issues of sustainability in our economy. I'd like to see some more diversity within our economic industries. I think that we have an opportunity here to bring in more tech-based and to be better partners between education and business that can build more job opportunities that equalize the pay across the different socioeconomic backgrounds.
Statewide offices are unique in that they require you to balance what's best for your district and what's best for the state as a whole. How do you plan to handle this?
I had a little bit of experience with that. When I worked on the Legislative Resource Committee for the Iowa Association of School Boards, I represent rural communities, rural districts, but I also understand that urban districts have different concerns. When I sit at the table, I'm not just representing Danville Community School District, I'm representing L&M and and Wapello and Columbus Junction and other districts, but I'm also looking at it in the view of what the budget can do for school districts and what we can sustain and what we need as a state to be able to do. There are commonalities and there are differences. And so I think that we have to look at every decision that we make in a lens of who's paying for it and who's benefiting from it, and making sure that we are not having taxpayers who are paying for things that do not benefit the common good. As long as we stay on that basis and we're always looking at not requiring those who are least able to sustain the burden to pay for things that are benefiting the few, the state's economy will continue to grow and that every community will benefit from that. And I think that's what I have to do as a state representative in a rural district, is making sure that what decisions are made are not made on the basis of one part of the economy serving another part.
If you win the election, how will you work with fellow representatives to better the lives of Muscatine County residents?
I don't care where a good idea comes from. I think that we need to work together, and we have to stop campaigning once the campaign is over and start governing. And at that point, we should be looking at commonality of what will work, make our basis on decisions based on facts and not on ideology. I think that we need to make sure that we are serving all the people of Iowa to the best of our ability. And we can't do that if we just disregard what someone else has to say because they come from a different political party. I think it's really important that the people who serve in elected offices have the ability to hold dear an ideology, but be able to provide or to see that other ideologies are just equally valid, and be able to find a common ground between them. I give you an example. Corn growers and water quality people both want clean water. They have different ideas on how to get there. They really don't have different ideas on how to get there. They agree on that. The difference is in degree. And so I think that rather than saying one or the other, every legislature ought to be talking to both groups and saying, can we bring both points of view together to have a solution instead of start continuing the argument.
The topic of mental health has been raised as one of the key issues for Muscatine County. Please give us your perception of the current situation and what you would do if elected to address this issue at the state level.
Mental health has been is an issue across the entire state, and I would guess most of the country. We need providers, and we need a stable funding source for paying for treatment. We tried with parity in the early 90s with the Culver administration. It didn't quite work out as well as we thought it was going to work. So we need to pay attention to insurers and making sure that we have a funding source for care. We also need to have a funding source to get providers educated. We need to be speaking about mental health providers with respect, and the helping professions are respected things and careers for students to follow in order to get people to apply and to get the education that they need to provide those serving in those serving roles. So yes, I think we have both an issue with having enough providers. We're not going to be able to provide care until we have those providers, and we're not going to have the providers until we have a way to entice people into those jobs and to help them pay for those education.
Economic development in Iowa, and specifically Muscatine County, are also hot topics. How do you feel the state of Iowa can support economic growth and development in Muscatine County?
I think that we have to look about what's here and what we can grow from that. I think that we have to stop making choosing winners and losers. I think that the notion of paying one employer to bring their jobs into a community that competes with other employers that are already there is self-defeating. I think we need to level the playing field in terms of minimum wage. I think we also need to look at what we can bring into Muscatine County that helps businesses that are already here, so that we have jobs that are vertically stacked as well as a diversity horizontally across industries in the community.
The state budget will be more complex than normal over the foreseeable future due to COVID-19 and federal government support. How will you stay prepared for making these complex decisions?
I think that you just have to go back to your basic priorities. And like I said, education has got to be a major priority. It's the largest economic development program any state can invest in. I think that we also need to make sure that we are using our public safety dollars well. That doesn't mean taking money away from police forces. It means funding them for peacekeeping within communities, and also funding mental health services and other supports in communities that we can deal with. We've asked so much of our public safety and our educators to take on roles that are not really ones that are specific to education or public safety. And so we need to make sure that we have those community supports. I think that the state should be funding community, local groups' decision-making on what works for them. And when we do that, then we find that there are good ideas out in communities that work in those communities that may not work in other communities, but we're diversifying the problem solving, and we're making those decisions that work best in each community. I think the budget needs to be less focused on thou shalt do it this way, and more on these are basic services that we must provide in each community, and how can we best do that?
Last question. What is the most important thing you would like voters to know about you that they may not already know?
Oh, it's the question that I have so much difficulty with because I really don't know which direction to go with. What I want people to know is that I'm interested in hearing from them, that I want them to know that I want to help them find the solutions that we all need. and that specifically that they may require. So I envision being a very constituent-focused legislator that is looking at helping people to find the resources that they need to be successful, and to building those resiliencies within our communities, rural communities, to survive and to grow and to thrive.
Great. Thank you for joining us today. I appreciate you coming.
Thank you for the opportunity. This is great.
Yep. I appreciate you answering all of our questions. Thank you.
Thanks.